Hello and welcome to the 2021 Charles R. Bantz Chancellor's Community Dialogue and Awards presentation. My name is Steve Vieweg and I serve as the Associate Director of the IUPUI Center for Translating Research into Practice. It's my delight to serve as today's host for this event. The Center for Translating Research into Practice was founded in 2007 by Professor Emeritus Dr. Sandra Petronio, whose pioneering work in understanding privacy management helped propel her quest to identify and promote all research that is interdisciplinary and that generates or uses knowledge to solve complex problems in our communities. Chancellor Emeritus Charles R. Bantz advanced IUPUI's commitment to translational and community engaged work during his tenure as IUPUI's fourth chancellor from 2003 to 2015. He currently serves as the executive director of the Center for Translating Research into Practice. When Dr. Bantz stepped down as IUPUI's chancellor, the community rallied to support the establishment of the Bantz Community Fellowship Program. With generous support of community friends and their charitable contributions, along with the Office of the Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, the Office of Community Engagement, and the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research, the first award was presented in 2016. The fellowship seeks to support an IUPUI faculty member and their research team, including their community partner and IUPUI students, to deepen their advancement of a research project that aims to address a community issue. You can see the variety of projects, beginning with the Invisible Indianapolis in 2016, working to understand more about our heritage. The Creating the Healthy Cities project in Getting the Lead Out in 2017. Creating a trauma response service in a local high school in 2018. Helping incarcerated women rewrite the history of women's prisons in 2019, and increasing support for the Healthy Indiana Plan, a new HIP public, in 2020. During the review of applications for the first award in 2016, then Vice Chancellor for Research, Simon Atkinson, recognized the opportunity to support emerging community engaged research endeavors that aligned with the Bantz Community Fellowship vision. And this created the Bantz Community Scholarship Program that was also first awarded in 2016. Again, you can appreciate the variety of research projects, beginning with a partnership to improve senior brain health through user-centered design in 2016, to finding pathways to school success with alternatives to expulsion in 2017, authentically engaging parents and caregivers as faculty partners in academic experiences in 2018, supporting women to advance their professional careers in the Indianapolis community in 2019, and building resilience and protective factors among Burmese refugees through a strengths-based participatory action research project in 2020. We are excited to officially meet the 2021 Fellow and Scholar Award recipients. As I said, we enjoy a strong collaborative relationship with the IUPUI Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. And before we present this year's awardees, we welcome Mark Mendonca, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Research from the IUPUI Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research, to share a few words. So please help me welcome Mark.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here today to celebrate Community Engaged Scholarship. My name is Mark Mendonca from the IUPUI Office of Vice Chancellor for Research, or OVCR. I bring greetings today from Dr. Janice Bloom, Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Education. The OVCR is delighted to continue its support of the Bantz Community Scholarship Award. This award was first initiated in 2016, in recognition of Chancellor Emeritus Bantz's belief in the power of community engaged research and university community partnerships that can make lasting impacts on our lives and communities. Our office continues to find innovative ways to develop research initiatives that promote community engaged research approaches that include students from all academic and degree programs alongside our community partners. Today, we celebrate our most recent awardees to get the chance to learn more about a few of our recent ongoing awardee projects. At this time, it's my pleasure to welcome Chancellor Emeritus Charles R. Bantz to share his welcome and to present the 2021 awardees. Charles.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'm here with Sandra Petronio, the founder of the TRIP Center, and I am very pleased to once again partner with the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. As you've heard already, the Scholar Award would not have happened without the support of OVCR, and it has proven to be an important piece of the engagement that we want to have across the campus and across the community. It has been an astonishing run, as you just saw, the awardees for the last, all of them that you saw from the very beginning, forgive me, from the very beginning of the awards, the variety that has been come forward on our campus to do this kind of work, whether you're in anthropology, whether you're in education, whether you're in social work, nursing, business, as you saw in a recent Scholar Award. We see that students are engaged in these projects in each and every one of them. You can see the number of students in different levels, graduate students, undergraduate students, professional students have been engaged. We've had faculty in the School of Medicine and in nursing, as well as the other departments and schools that I've mentioned. What's most impressive about it is the creativity and the commitment that these individuals have brought to their projects and the partnerships that they've formed in the community, and essentially brought that work to the community, applying the scholarly work with the partnership. And it carries through the reporting of the results, not just doing the work. So we've seen collaborative writing projects, as you saw with Elizabeth Nelson, where she's worked with individuals who've been incarcerated or were still incarcerated. And you've seen it in a whole series. You've seen blogs, articles that have been published and made available. We've also seen significant additional financial support in the nature of grants and contracts that have come to these individuals to support the work. And that brings together and helps sustain that work. And so we've always depended upon financial support of donors to start the Fellows Program, but we also want to see the continuing effort in the community, which we've seen with the work that's been done. As you heard, it has been amazing to try and review these proposals. Each year, it's one of the most interesting several hours that I've spent looking at these proposals and seeing the kind of ideas people bring to the table and seeing how they've developed. Who would have thought, for example, I see David Craig here on the screen, a religious studies person would partner with an art faculty member and develop something related to health delivery in the state of Indiana. That kind of creativity has been critical to the work. So each year it's been a tough decision. And as you can see, terrific work has been done. This year, we were once again able to announce award winners. The recipients of the Bantz Community Fellow, the fellow is Dr. Leslie Etienne, who is a faculty member in the teacher program in the School of Education and also in the School of Liberal Arts in the Africana Studies program. And Dr. Tambra Jackson, who is the Dean of the School of Education. The two of them are partnering on a project that relates to the Freedom Schools program in Indianapolis and across the country. You'll learn more about that in a video in just a minute, but it reflects the commitment to youth and having youth become more literate and literacy relating to the development of freedom in not only the individual, but in the community. And it's a terrific partnership with the Hope Academy, excuse me, not the Hope Academy, and it's titled A Summer of Service, A Lifetime of Commitment, Developing Freedom School Interns as Community Engaged Scholars. So let's learn a little bit more about that. We have a video.
literacy here as a form of social justice, as a form of freedom.
Dr. Etienne and I have been working with Freedom Schools for a very long time. And a part of the Freedom Schools model centers intergenerational leadership. And what that means is we draw upon the strength and the energy of the youth, and we pair that with the wisdom and experience of the elders. The Freedom Schools project is solving multiple issues in the community. One of the components of Freedom School is that we have to provide children with nutritious meals and snacks. A lot of times when summer rolls around, families are worried about filling that gap for feeding children, and Freedom Schools provides that space. We provide children with 2 nutritious meals, breakfast and lunch, as well as 2 snacks, and we also send snacks home with children, particularly over the weekend, so that they have access to food. Unfortunately, schools have come to be known as these very sterile, serious spaces, but that's not how we learn. And so, we learn through experience. We learn through connecting things around us to our own personal stories. And so the children get excited about that. They get, they get an opportunity to get exposed to academic content, to be better readers and that sort of thing, but we do it in a fun, energizing kind of way. And so when our Harambe readers show up and they say good morning, and the children do the good morning chant, they're not ready for that. And it never gets old having new people come to Freedom School and to see the kind of energy that we have here.
Congratulations to Drs. Etienne and Jackson. I think you can see the depth and partnership in that video and the kind of long-term effect and commitment long-term that is illustrated in the Fellows Program. As we shared earlier, the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research has made possible the funding for the Community Scholar Award, and you see on the screen our 2 awardees this year are Victoria Garcia-Wilborn, who is an occupational therapist in the School of Health and Human Sciences, and Dr. Devin Hensel, who is in the School of Medicine and also the Department of Sociology. They're working on a project, as you can see the title of it, How Timely Could We Be? Trying to look at how adolescents in a recovery high school during COVID-19, how they manage their cravings and triggers. It's a very close analysis of these individuals, and it's obviously a key issue in adolescence and in recovery. And to look at it at this particular time was a really important project. So let's learn some more about it.
What we will investigate with our community partner is how triggers and cravings of substance misuse impact students throughout their daily life. We are utilizing a data collection method known as Ecological Momentary Assessment, or EMA. EMA will allow the students to report their cravings and triggers in real time, eliminating barriers like recall bias. This information is critical so our community partner can best support their students along their journey of recovery by offering client-centered supports based on this data.
I am really fortunate that Dr. Wilburn has brought me on this project and included me in this long-standing community partnership she has with Hope Academy. As an adolescent health expert, I've built my career on committing myself and my research to serving the adolescents in communities. It's my hope that my involvement in this project and some of these skills that I bring to this research project will ultimately bear important pieces of information that will allow us to continue to support the long-term recovery and long-term well-being of the students of Hope Academy.
The benefits of this program are twofold. First, it will bring together the entities that traditionally have not collaborated together in the past. I love being part of trailblazing new ideas that focus on making the journey of recovery easier for our students. And second, it will create a tool for students to help evaluate their cravings and to be able to immediately course correct in real time. It was such a joy to be able to work with the youth at Hope Academy on this project, to see them grow from quietly slipping into the class to participate in coming in and talking and wanting to be there and share. Watching them take control of the project, work through any issues to come to an agreement with each other was so gratifying. They showed their care and concern to not only their peers, but also to us as leaders. They showed concern when someone was absent and was also able to celebrate another's success. These youth showed great creativity with the project, empathy with each other, and inclusion to all. I am thankful for the opportunity to be part of such a unique project with fantastic youth.
Congratulations again, Doctors Garcia, Wilborn, and Hensel. Again, the kind of partnership in the community, in this case with Hope Academy, a deep relationship in another key issue, as we saw in the Fellows Project. So what a terrific set of awards to be announcing today. And I'm so glad that you're able to hear that to now. Steve?
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Sandra, for helping us learn more about this year's awardees. We look forward to watching their progress over this next year and finding out more about their work. Well, as we said earlier, we have a wide variety of research activities that have been supported through both the Fellow and the Scholar programs. And today, we've invited 3 of our past projects to join us for an opportunity to learn more about their work and to help them think through some of their questions. So with us today are Dr. Cristina Santamaria Graff with the IUPUI School of Education and her project called Family as Faculty, and Dr. Elizabeth Nelson with the School of Liberal Arts and her project that's called Women's Prison History Project, and Dr. David Craig with the School of Liberal Arts and his project, A New HIP Public. So each of these scholars is anxious to host you in a breakout room to have a deeper conversation about their work and the questions that they're grappling with. They want your input. So we're going to ask you to select just one of these projects to join today. And we imagine that you'll want to know a little bit more about each of these projects before you make a decision about where to spend a chunk of your afternoon to help them think through some of their questions and wonderings. So we've asked our faculty members to share some highlights about their work to help you decide what group to join. So let's hear from them about their work, and then we'll come back together and explain how to get to the breakout room. Here's their projects.
Hi, I'm David Craig, Professor of Religious Studies in the IU School of Liberal Arts at IUPUI.
And I'm Pamela Napier, Associate Professor of Visual Communication Design at Heron School of Art and Design at IUPUI. Our project, which was selected for the 2020 Charles R. Bantz Chancellor's Community Fellowship Award, is titled A New HIP Public. We focused on increasing community support for low-income Hoosiers who are eligible for the state's Healthy Indiana Plan, or HIP, a health insurance plan that expands Medicaid coverage. During our project, we were fortunate enough to work with over 50 community partners, from insurance companies to diverse congregations to interfaith groups. Over 50 students from both the Department of Religious Studies and Visual Communication Design worked together and participated through facilitating in-depth participatory sessions, feedback meetings, and designing materials, which we're going to circle back to here in a minute.
This was a big team effort, and we wanted to reach out to community partners to learn the ways that they support health and wellness. We heard rich moral language from members of our partner congregations. At Hindu Temple of Central Indiana, we heard that the universe is one song. We must serve wellness from body, spirit, and mind to nature and community. Englewood Christian Church practices health as membership. No one can be healthy without a sense of belonging and mutual need. At Masjid al-Fajr, cleanliness in body and purpose is half of our religion, and serving others is how we come closer to Allah, our Creator. At Indianapolis Hebrew congregation, they said, Abraham sees the world on fire and God asks, what are you going to do about it? We learned from an earlier study of HIP in 2019 that HIP's complexity, fees, stigma, and stress cost members their coverage. Members stay better connected when they have relationships with community groups and congregations. So they helped us develop a suite of materials to communicate HIP clearly and empower people to stay connected to HIP.
And so ultimately, we were able to deliver and design a suite of Get Hip campaign materials, including brochures, PowerPoint slide decks, and how-to videos, in addition to creating 4 distinct visuals for each of our 4 congregational partners, representing how each congregation understands, supports, and practices health and wellness. We feel incredibly fortunate and very thankful for everybody that has contributed their knowledge, expertise, and insights into this project. So thank you to everyone who was able to work with us.
Yes, thanks to all of our partners, and we hope you'll join us for the session.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Nelson, and I'm an assistant professor of medical humanities and health studies in the School of Liberal Arts. The Bantz Community Fellowship that I received in the 2019-2020 academic year supported my work with the Indiana Women's Prison History Project. The History Project is a group of approximately 10 student researchers who are either currently or formerly incarcerated at the Indiana Women's Prison. I'm a professional historian, and since 2018, my role has been to work with the students as a mentor and collaborator, helping to ensure that they have the resources that they need and that their research is at the highest level. The History Project started at the prison in 2012. It was originally intended to be a 1-semester class where the students investigated the origins of the Indiana Women's Prison, which was founded in the 1870s as the first separate state-run prison for women in the United States. But since that time, the researchers have expanded their scope, continued the research over many years to look at other institutions of confinement like religious-run homes for so-called fallen women and state institutions like the Girls' School and the School for Feeble-Minded Youth. Because the scholars have lived experience of incarceration, they've been able to ask truly incisive questions that have led to a real rewriting of this history. We have an edited volume that is set to appear in 2023 with a new press that looks at the history of women's incarceration in Indiana in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and which provides a needed critical perspective on the gendered violence and economic exploitation that is inherent to our prison system. As a higher education program, the History Project was initially about fostering academic skills, and several of our members have pursued additional education, including graduate degrees after their release from prison. But ultimately, what the group has become over time is a kind of collective, a group of women who are resources for each other and for the community. Members of the History Project, like Michelle Daniel Jones and Anastasia Schmid, for example, have become some of the leading national voices in the critique of mass incarceration and in advocating for the well-being of currently and formerly incarcerated people.
Hello, my name is Cristina Santamaria Graff, and I'm an associate professor in the School of Education in the Urban Teacher Education Program, and specifically I teach in the Special Education Program. For over 15 years, my scholarship has focused on working with Latinx immigrant families of children with disabilities. In fact, the title of my translational research project for the Bantz Community Scholars Award I was honored with in 2018 is titled Family as Faculty, a project to authentically engage parents, students, and community partners in meeting common goals. Briefly, Family as Faculty is a healthcare approach to working with families of children with disabilities who, through this model, are positioned as leaders who share their expertise with those providing care to their children. Adapted for education and specifically for special education teacher preparation programs, Family as Faculty is an innovative approach for family members to be co-instructors in university or college courses aimed to prepare future special education teachers. In my project, Family as Faculty, Latinx immigrant family members of children with Down syndrome and autism led pre-service teachers in small group discussions about their child. These discussions were guided by hands-on activities we as co-instructors developed and led. To put theoretical approaches into action, particularly within community-engaged scholarship centered on anti-racist and equitable practices, many layers of organization, structure, and thoughtful reflection are necessary. The implementation of Family as Faculty has been complex, problematic, and incredibly rewarding. I hope to share both the pitfalls and the rewards of working with families and communities in community-engaged projects.
Well, now we hope you've had a chance to hear more about each of these projects to help you make a decision about where you'd like to spend the next 40 minutes or so in conversation. So it's time to make your choice. We'll invite you to look at the bottom of your screen and your Zoom window, and you should be able to see a button that says Breakout Rooms. And when you click on that, you'll have 3 choices. So we invite you to pick one of these rooms and enjoy some time to learn about that project and help our faculty members think through their questions and the things that they're wondering about as they continue their work. Now we'll come back together here at about 4:10 to get a snapshot from each of the breakout rooms so we can hear what was happening in every place before we close out our session for today, along with some other wonderful announcements. We'll stay here in this room in case anybody gets lost down in the hallways and you need help finding where you need to go. But otherwise, it's time now for you to pick the place you want to be, and then we'll see you back here in just a bit to hear about your experiences. Have a good time.
Agency level to the state level, and then, you know, definitely to the national level one day, but to have that representation very, very much enforced at all times at those larger levels. So thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. And I would add, in our world of the disability community and their families, the current phrase often is nothing about us without us. So in speaking to what you're talking about. So thank you for sharing those highlights of your conversation. And now we'll turn to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what did you learn from your group?
Oh gosh, yeah. So thank you everyone who joined me in the breakout room. I really appreciate the conversation and the interest in what the scholars of the history project are doing. We talked a lot about success and failure and what those things mean in the context of higher education for formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated people. One of the things that we discussed is can happen, needs to happen at IUPUI to better support those who have been incarcerated and are pursuing education there. Everything from, you know, revising admissions processes to the kinds of wraparound supports that folks need once they arrive, and that whole follow through process. And this was, you know, this was important for me, especially because, you know, we've had, you know, several of our students in the history project, you know, they're pursuing PhDs and they're very academically successful. But I also had 2 students that came to IUPUI, and, you know, during the pandemic, you know, there was a lot of things going on that very complicated, but they both did not do well. And so
Oh dear, she's frozen. This happens in our Zoom world.
Yeah, sorry, this happened in our small group too. I'll just fill in, but Elizabeth and I have been working together on trying to develop a proposal for supports that we might put in place at IUPUI to both make it easier for formerly incarcerated students to apply, because the application process for them is very Byzantine. And as Elizabeth said, it's not just getting people here, it's retention and support for their success. So Amy has been like, I see Amy nodding, and she's been like a super support on working on these plans. So yeah, so I think that's it.
Okay, thank you for stepping in, Sue, to finish that thought, so we would have a complete sense of the opportunities, right, and the needs, as you guys discussed in that group. Our final group then was David Craig about the new HIP public. So let's hear from you.
All right, thank you, Steve. Though we have to call it HIP to give the double entendre.
Well, all right, then
of being both about the Healthy Indiana Plan and being hip, because we all want to be hip. What we were lucky, and I was lucky in our group to have two students who are really involved in the research talk about their experiences. And one thing that I take away from listening to them is when you do community engaged work and you're committed to respect, relationship, and reciprocity, you can go quite deep with people, and you can go deep with people by hearing their stories. And the stories kind of multiply, and you start to get this kind of whole sense of a community. But we were also trying to visualize, and this was a tension and challenge, is sort of how do you take that integrated complexity of lives, communities, ways of supporting people, and put it into a visual that's clear and understandable for people. And so for me, this was a real interesting element of the project. HIP is incredibly complicated. HIP is much more complicated than private insurances, than other public health insurance programs are. So a real goal, and Rachel said this very nicely, is if we can take this complexity and make it clear, we can provide helpful visuals, people can have confidence in what they're doing in terms of applying for HIP. This is going to be really important right now during the public health emergency. The state has suspended certain rules that HIP members normally have to follow, but that will stop when the public health emergency stops. So there's going to be this real adjustment period. And we need to be thinking hard about how to get these materials out. We were asked a great question, what should we be doing here at IUPUI? And listening to Elizabeth talk, I'm already thinking, what are the offices where these brochures should be available to people here at IUPUI? Because many of our students would be eligible for HIP and probably need that kind of support. So those were some of the key themes that came out, just kind of the richness of stories, the willingness of our community partners to share, which was really beautiful, including one conversation with younger people, IUPUI students at Masjid Al-Fajr, and a mother kind of intervened a couple times to say, okay, but I really have to share what I have to say more than what you're hearing from my daughter, which was a beautiful moment of full community participation on Zoom.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And you can see like what comes out of these conversations. That's really awesome. Elizabeth was able to get back. She's having internet problems today, but she wants to just finish up a couple things. So she had another thought to share. So we're glad you're back. Go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I was talking about how to take the failures that we've had and learn from them. And so we talked about how to support our students and the complexity of that support, the wide range of support that's needed. And Sue made the really important point, though, that it's not just formerly incarcerated students. The structural issues, the structural barriers, those are things that are often shared among many of our students. And so I'd like to maybe use this moment as a jumping off a conversation about how do we address this, because it's something that is, yeah, as you know, has been said, with COVID becoming, I think, very exacerbated. And so what can we do as a campus community to really address those issues? So I'll stop there.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about just this snippet of what we had today is the incredible synergy that goes across some of these projects. What we usually find is when we bring ourselves together and talk about these issues from our own experience and perspective and research, that we make connections to other people, other schools, other faculty, and come up with new questions or figure out how could we use this information to solve the problems. And we keep finding more things that we can solve. Before we move to our final piece, I wanted to ask if Charles and Sandra have any comments about the experience today, and or any thoughts about things that you've heard or that you're just wanting to share as a result of being with our fellows and scholars. You have to unmute though if you're going to say something.
I said, oh, come on, I've got to unmute. I got to come back. There it is.
Yeah,
I want to thank everyone, the presenters. Those videos you did were incredible introductions to the work you were doing, and it was fun to watch people trying to make a decision based on that. But it also made me smile so much over the depth of the work you're doing and the partnerships that you've got. So for me, this was another one of those treats that you get to have at this phase of my career, to watch the incredible achievements that you have. And as I see Les sitting right next on my screen to Elizabeth, it's like seeing the next year coming, following Elizabeth's work, and what a difference it'll make. Steve said something on a session we had as a rehearsal that was really on target, that he said I should make sure I told Sandra that thanks again for the vision of the translational work those many years ago. It turned out to be way more foresight than I thought it would be. I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was one of the things that really was distinctive about the campus. But stop and turn around and look back and say how important it is today. And I'm seeing Vice Chancellor for Engagement, Warner, smiling at this moment. But you stop and think how critical it is for not only our campus and those of you working on these issues, but for our community and our country, and
our
frankly,
children.
And our children. So, I don't know.
Well, thank you, Charles and Sandra, for making this happen, for setting the stage and getting us to this place, because we certainly do have a lot to celebrate. And it's important to recognize that our many faculty who are participating with the community, including students, in their quest to generate knowledge and solve problems, and what a difference we're making by coming together and exploring and making discoveries. But as we've mentioned, we can't do this alone. The Bantz Community Fellowship and the Bantz Community Scholar Programs depend on the generous support of donors and our community. And to help us think about this more deeply, we'd like to invite Amy Conrad Warner, who's the IUPUI Vice Chancellor for Community Engagement, to share her perspective about this important effort. So please welcome Amy Conrad Warner.
Thank you, Stephen. And I just want to give myself a heads up for having a 20-year-old picture up there, but I'm still alive. And I loved everything I heard today. Every time I hear about the call to action for faculty to submit proposals, and I see the excitement of the reviewers coming out of the room. Today was just a great example of the magic that's happening. And for me, we're in the midst of a health, economic and political tensions that are everywhere around us. If you are losing confidence or losing faith in the role higher education plays, well, then I really feel like today's presentation should shine the light on the value of everything that both Sandra and Charles brought to us and the importance of translating research into practice. I heard beautiful words today about this research fueling imagination. The research and activity builds on the research strength, and as demonstrated by so many of the speakers today, the teaching strength that is within our faculty to extend that learning to every student that crosses their path. The interest in understanding the leveling the playing field, particularly in power dynamics and what it takes to change lives. So all of what we've seen today really demonstrates this powerful transformational work that is underway here at IUPUI. And personally, I know those of us who have worked on this program for years know that when Chancellor Charles Bantz and Dr. Sandra Petronio came to Indianapolis, they really challenged us to move translational and community engaged research to the top of our priority list. And the excitement of uncovering these great translational scholars at IUPUI has been ongoing and will continue to grow in the years ahead. So when I think about, what our region really cares about, these main thrusts were touched upon today in the work of these fellows and scholars. We care about education for young people to succeed in the future. We care about parents being richly involved. We care about members of our community who are at times invisible or feel invisible or don't feel that anyone cares about their pathway, being pulled forward as a community and cultural asset. I love the comments that Tamber Jackson mentioned in her video about intergenerational leadership in the, that is experienced in the Freedom Schools. We also have rich representation in these programs of inclusion and diversity that is so critical to the success of our institution and to our community at large. So you saw examples of advancing women, projects for resilience among refugees, the great work in the Indiana Women's Prison, and some of what Susan mentioned about our future work for even connecting more deeply with those who are formerly involved in the incarceration system, the criminal justice system. And of course, we're a health and life sciences campus. So to be reminded of what it takes to work with adolescents in these recovery high schools to make their lives productive and rich, that they are as deserving as anyone else in our community who's seeking access to education. The healthy environment. I loved the special session I got to sit in on the Healthy Indiana Plan. I can't tell you the number of friends and family that I've worked with on these issues before, and I'm thrilled with where the program is and hope we can advance that. So with today's close, I just want to say there's no time like the present to inspire this important work. And I invite you to join me and to encourage others to support this inspiring work. You can see some information on our site, and there's also a really easy phone number to call, and I'll put that in the chat box, to support the Charles Bantz Chancellor's Community Fellowship and Scholar Program. So I hope you'll join me and send to me or share with me names of people who want to see this beautiful work that you've shared today continue on, and to attract new scholars and students to do what they were, put on this earth to do, which is to use their intellectual capabilities to make a difference in the community in which we live. So I'll put the number in there, and I just wanted to thank everyone for the great exchange and hope that you'll join me also in supporting the fellowship.
Thank you, Amy, for helping us to think about the importance of this from the perspective of ongoing support to make sure that this work continues for on and on as long as we can do it. We have come to the end of our awards presentation and community discussion about some of the community engaged projects. And we do appreciate your support of these programs and are glad that you could join us today. We look forward to lots more community engaged projects and to future opportunities to share. So we invite you to keep following us in whatever way you'd like to on social media, or to visit our website at trip.iupui.edu. And speaking of other opportunities, we hope that we will see you again in just a half an hour at 5 o'clock Eastern time today In just about a half an hour, we're going to be starting the annual Translating Research into Practice Showcase, where we're going to meet the Bantz Petronio Faculty Awardee, as well as several other IUPUI translational scholars. The Zoom link for this meeting will be the same, so you could just leave this on and enjoy the beautiful music. And we'll thank you for joining us now. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. We do ask that you please respond to the friendly invitation to do a short survey. You'll get an email invitation afterwards. It helps us to know what your experience was today and what you'd like to see in the future. So we'll see you in just about 30 minutes. Thank you so much.